In 2005, a consumer bought a fresh snapper from a local supermarket. He took it home to prepare for dinner. It was supposed to be a standard meal, but when he laid the fish on the cutting board and pried open its jaws, he didn't find normal anatomy. He found a weird creature. Sitting directly in the center of the fish's mouth was a pale, armored crustacean with 14 hooked legs and black, unblinking eyes. It was staring right back at him. It wasn't just resting inside the mouth like a swallowed meal. It was physically anchored to the floor of the jaw. When photos of these encounters inevitably hit the internet, the media goes into a frenzy. People panic. Is it a hoax? Is it a mutant created by toxic runoff? If this alien-looking bug is hiding inside our seafood, is the ocean poisoned? For a while, people blame pollution, but we were wrong. The architect of this horror isn't a chemical spill. It is an ancient, highly evolved organism, a microscopic swimmer that developed a terrifying ability to enter a living vertebrate, amputate a vital organ, and seamlessly take its place. This is not a story about environmental contamination. This is a story about biological assimilation. Today, we open the files of dark biology to investigate Cymothoa exigua, the tongue-eating louse, the only known creature on Earth that doesn't just feed on its host, it functionally replaces a piece of its body. To understand the nightmare, we have to start at the beginning of the invasion. The ocean is a biological soup, thick with microscopic predators and invisible threats. For a fish, simply breathing is a risk. Every time a snapper opens its mouth to pull oxygen-rich water over its gills, it opens the front door to invaders. Cymothoa exigua begins its life as a microscopic, free-swimming larva. It drifts in the dark, waiting for the chemical signature of a specific host fish. It is a biological heat-seeking missile aiming straight for the exhaust vents. When the fish swims by, the larva gets sucked into the gill chamber. The gills are packed with soft tissue and unprotected blood vessels, the perfect place for a parasite to latch on. The juvenile isopod uses its sharp, hooked claws to anchor itself to the gill arches. At this stage, the isopod is male. Multiple males can infest a single fish, clustering in the dark caverns of the gills, feeding on the host's blood. If they stayed here, they would just be standard, unremarkable parasites. But Cymothoa exigua has ambition. When a male isopod realizes it is the largest, most dominant parasite in the gill chamber, a terrifying biological trigger is flipped. It undergoes a process called protandric hermaphroditism. It begins to change its sex. Its body elongates, its exoskeleton shifts, and its eyes grow larger. It transforms from a small, blood-sucking male into a massive, heavily armored female. Once the transformation is complete, she realizes the gills are no longer big enough to hold her. She needs a throne. She unhooks her claws from the gills and begins the long, dark crawl forward into the fish's mouth. When the female isopod arrives in the oral cavity, she finds her target, the fish's tongue. In fish, the tongue is a rigid, bony structure called the basihyal, used mechanically to grip prey and push it down the throat. It is a vital piece of hunting equipment. The isopod climbs onto this structure, positioning herself perfectly, looking through the teeth at the open ocean. And then the surgery begins. She doesn't bite the tongue off. That would cause massive hemorrhaging, and if the host bleeds to death, the parasite dies with it. Instead, she uses her 7 pairs of razor-sharp, hooked legs to pierce the base of the tongue. She drives her claws deep into the flesh, directly targeting the specific arteries that supply blood to the organ. And then, she simply squeezes. She acts as a living tourniquet, cutting off the blood supply with perfect mechanical precision. What happens next is a process called ischemia. Without a supply of oxygenated blood, the cells of the fish's tongue begin to suffocate. Over the course of days or weeks, the tissue undergoes necrosis. It turns pale, then gray, then black. It rots while still attached to the living fish. Eventually, the dead flesh dissolves. The organ crumbles and falls away. Only the hard, bony stump of the tongue remains. The fish has been successfully amputated. The vault is empty. Now, The true horror begins. Once the tongue is gone, the female isopod doesn't abandon the mouth. She attaches her hind legs to the remaining bony stump and locks herself in. She perfectly positions her armored, segmented back to mimic the exact slope and shape of the missing tongue. She becomes the tongue. This is the only known instance in the animal kingdom where a parasite functionally replaces a host's organ. And the most terrifying part? It actually works. When the fish hunts, it uses the hard, armored back of the isopod to grip struggling prey and force it down its throat. The isopod transitions to a new diet. Every time the fish catches a meal, the isopod simply skims a little bit off the top. The parasite gets a safe, mobile home with food delivered directly to its face. The fish gets a functional tongue and is allowed to survive. But it is no longer just a fish, it is a chimera, a vehicle co-piloted by an alien intelligence. But nature is never satisfied with just one nightmare. The cycle must continue. While the giant female is acting as the tongue, she releases chemical pheromones that drift backward into the gills, signaling to the tiny males hiding in the red tissue. When it is time to reproduce, the males detach from the gills and crawl up the dark, wet cavern of the throat. They mate right there, inside the mouth of the living host. The fish is completely powerless. It is forced to act as a living bridal suite for the creatures that hijacked its body. After mating, the female develops a specialized brood pouch on her underside, right against the stump of the fish's tongue. Inside, she incubates hundreds of eggs. For weeks, the host fish swims through the ocean, completely unaware that it is acting as a dropship for an invading army. When the eggs hatch, hundreds of microscopic free-swimming manca spill out of the female's pouch, drifting into the current to find the gills of a new victim. Once her young are released, the female's job is done. She eventually dies, losing her grip on the bony stump. She is swallowed or washes away. And the fish? It is left with nothing. No parasite, no tongue. Having survived the amputation and assimilation, it finally starves to death in the dark. Why does this disturb us so deeply? Cymothoa exigua violates the boundary of the self. If a fish's brain sends a neurological signal to swallow, and a parasite physically executes that command, whose action is it? It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question about our own bodies. Like the mitochondria in our cells, ancient bacteria absorbed billions of years ago. Evolution occasionally experiments with interchangeable parts. Cymothoa exigua is just a macroscopic, terrifying version of this process. It proves that nature views a body as a collection of mechanical slots. If a piece breaks, nature will simply plug a new piece into the socket, even if that new piece has eyes, legs, and an appetite of its own. The story of the tongue-eating louse is a brutal reminder of the absolute ruthlessness of adaptation. Killing a host is inefficient. Dead fish don't swim, and they don't spread your offspring. To truly exploit an animal, you must make yourself indispensable. By replacing the tongue, the isopod ensures the fish stays alive exactly as long as it needs to. It is the ultimate hostage situation. From the perspective of the isopod, this is a masterpiece of biological engineering. It found a locked door, picked the lock, threw away the original key, and became the door itself. So, the next time you look in the mirror, take a moment to appreciate the silence in your head. Appreciate the fact that your organs belong to you. Because in the dark waters of the Pacific, independence is a luxury. And in the game of survival, even your own flesh can be replaced. Stay on the boat. Don't look down. For more investigations into the dark, bizarre, and unbelievable side of nature, subscribe to Dark Biology. You will never look at the world the same way again.